This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Abam. We continue in the Sefer Devorah. We're up to Perek Beis, and we're up to the fourth way to emulate what is known as Middas HaKesser. Now, Middas HaKesser, we said, is the highest of the Middas, and it is the closest of Hashem to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, the Middah of Kesser, figuratively, is always looking down, because A, it is embarrassed to look at its cause, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And secondly, it's always looking to be mative to others. So too, the Middah, the way to emulate the Middah of Kesser is to have a position of head which is of humility. And likewise, one should always turn to their friends to be mative. That is the first way to emulate the Middah of Kesser. The second way to emulate the Middah of Kesser is b'machshava. One's mind should emulate the Middah of Kesser. Just like Kesser is the closest to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and therefore it precedes all of creation. It's in a realm where there's no din and there's no difficulty. So therefore a person's mind should always be clear of harsh thoughts, improper thoughts. And furthermore, one's mind should always be full with thoughts of Torah. One's mind should always be occupied with chesed and Torah, like the Middah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is Middas HaKesser, the machshava of Kesser. The third way to emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the Middah of Kesser is through the forehead. Like we mentioned, that all the ways of emulating Kesser are Nogea, the Rosh. Legabe Anivos, it's the position of the head. Legabe the thoughts, it's the machshava. And now we're up to the forehead. One's forehead, which is the place perhaps of din, there should be no din and no harshness on one's forehead. Instead, one should develop the Middah of Ratzon. The Middah of Ratzon is, even when people speak in anger and harshly, one should attempt to assuage and to calm their nerves, so to speak. Okay, now we're up to the fourth aspect of Kesser. Again, we've done the head, the thoughts, and the forehead. Now we talk about the ears. Number 4, Haravias, the ears. There's a Sefer called Mevakshe Hashlemos. In the Sefer Mevakshe Hashlemos, he brings that if a person wants to emulate, if a person wants to develop Midos Tovos, but a person thinks, I'll develop them on my own, I'm a good person, I have a good heart, and I'll instinctively know what proper Midos is, says the Mevakshe Hashlemos, it is very likely that in the place of developing and cultivating Midos Tovos, one will be engendering Midos Rois Ma'od. However, if a person is involved in Limud HaMusar, so they serve as the guide, the navigation course of what in fact are Midos Tovos. Haravias, the fourth way to emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu is as follows. The Shiur Oznav Noitos Tamid L'Shmaya Hatov. One's ears should always be inclined to hear that which is good. For example, some people love to hear bad news. Some people, when they speak to you, you know they're going to tell you, this bad thing happened to this one, even if it's not Lashon Hara. This bad thing happened to that one. Well, who needs to hear that? A person's ear should desire to hear only good news, Besuros Tovos. Amnam Shema Shav, a false report, Ay Hamaguna, or a disgraceful report. Lo Yikanes Bahem Klal, it should not enter your ears. You know, some people, how many people died today in Corona? You know, people get a kick out of that. I don't know why, but it's not a good Middah. It's not emulating the ears of Kesser. The ears of Kesser only want to enter Dvarim Tovim. Not something false, not something disparaging. It almost doesn't even enter. By the way, there's an interesting idea. You know, it says that at first Avram, his name was Avram, because he had dominion over 248 limbs, and then ultimately he had dominion over at first he had dominion over 243, and then he had dominion over 248. He gained dominion over his eyes, his ears, and the Rosh Hagviyah. So what does that mean? That means there's certain Eivarim that are not within a person's domain. You know, you don't really control what you hear. If you're walking down the street and some chalaria is blasting who knows what, you're going to hear it, whether you like it or not. But there is a concept that Avram Avinu controlled his ears. His ears literally did not hear that which he didn't want them to hear. Now, that might be beyond our capacity, that our ear doesn't hear what we don't want, but it is within our reach and our ability to say, you know what? I'm not listening to that. I don't want to hear. I'm not paying attention to that. I'll give you an example. There's a shaila in halacha. Let's say somebody is learning in the middle of Megillas Esther. Are you yotzei in the Megillah? Let's say you're sleeping in the middle of the Megillah. You're not yotzei. What do you mean? But the sound waves hit my eardrum. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Hearing doesn't mean the sound waves hit your eardrum. Hearing means a certain attentiveness, and if your mind isn't there, you didn't really hear it. Likewise, if a person's learning in the middle of Megillah, you're not yotzei. You're for sure not yotzei, because you're not focused on the words. So it's almost as if when a bad thing is emitted, you don't pay attention. It doesn't enter your ear. Just like in the secret of the supernal ear, no outcry of harshness and din reaches there. No deficiency of lashon hara. In God's ear, so to speak, in what is called the ear of Kesser, so no evil enters. Evil doesn't enter that ear, so to speak, of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Likewise, a person should not listen to only that which is good and only beneficial things. And other things that just strengthen anger. Don't pay attention to. You don't listen to. You don't even let it hear your ear. It's like, sometimes people talk about, let's say somebody would come to you and tell you about Middle Eastern 15th century sculpture in underground labyrinths under the Galapagos Islands. You don't even know. You're already lost. You're not even listening to him anymore. I don't even know what he's talking about. So when somebody says something bad, and even if it's not lashon hara, you're at it. You're tuned out. You don't pay attention to it. Just like the snake and his speaking and his tongue didn't enter above. His words did not enter in the shamayim. Something lowly, disparaging does not enter in the realm of your hearing. This is all under the umbrella categories. Don't listen to a bad report. Kol shekain, meaning it says don't bear a false report, certainly a disgraceful report. Should not enter your ear at all. And you should not be attentive only to things which are good. And this really should give a person a very great aliyah, because when you think about it, what's expected of us is that every element of our rosh, the position of it, the thought of our mind, the forehead, the ears are supposed to emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That means little me has the capacity to take every aspect of even my head and resemble HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That means, if the Rebbeinu Shalom requests this of us and encourages us to do this, that means we have the capacity to do this. That means our ability to achieve greatness and godliness is really infinite, and gives a person a lot of chizuk that we're able to accomplish very great things in this world. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give us siyata d'shmaya to be mekayim v'halachta b'drachav. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. Have a great day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.